The hall of the tribunal shimmered under alien lights, a dome of steel and glass holding the eyes of countless worlds. Species from across the stars gathered in tightly arranged tiers, voices carrying contempt, curiosity, and smug amusement. At the center stood two figures, separated by a space meant for settling disputes not with words, but with demonstrations of strength and honor. The representatives of humanity had sent a Marine. Alone, unarmed, standing straight-backed in fatigues that looked unimpressive beside the gleaming armor of the galactic warrior across from him. To the others, it seemed laughable. They whispered among themselves, hissing and chuckling. Humanity, the newest addition to the Council, barely stepping beyond its cradle world, dared to present one soldier as if he were enough to stand equal against a war breed bred and trained for generations. The galactic soldier beside him loomed tall, thick cords of muscle under a plated hide that shimmered like stone polished by centuries. He was a living weapon, engineered to fight, a product of science and conquest. To him, the Marine was nothing more than soft flesh and fragile bone. Yet the Marine stood motionless, eyes forward, hands behind his back, every inch of him radiating the discipline of a man forged through years of unrelenting training. There was no bravado, no theatrics, just calm readiness. His breathing was steady, controlled. To many watching, that stillness was misread as fear. The laughter grew louder, mocking the strange humans who dared think such a fragile being could represent their people in this assembly of giants. The alien soldier circled once, displaying himself, turning to the tiers above as if inviting the crowd to join in his derision. He raised his arms, hissed a sound that passed for laughter in his species, and shouted in a tongue translated instantly into the ears of all present. "This is the champion of humanity! A mammal soft as clay? You bring prey to a predator's hall?" Roars of approval followed from many corners. Some banged their appendages on the railings, others clicked mandibles in rhythm. The Marine did not move. He did not look away, nor did he break posture. He had been trained for environments hostile, unpredictable, unforgiving. Mockery was nothing new. The alien stopped suddenly before him, lowering his massive head until his ridged brow almost touched the Marine's face. The predator's breath washed hot and foul, an act of intimidation. The Marine blinked once, slow and deliberate, unshaken. His silence was answer enough, but silence enraged those who needed fear to feel superior. The galactic soldier straightened, his bulk casting a long shadow over the man, and with a sudden twist of his arm, he lashed out. His open palm, as broad as a human torso, whipped across and connected with the side of the Marine's face. The sound cracked like thunder, echoing through the chamber. The crowd exploded with laughter, jeers, and shrieks of approval. Some rose to their feet, expecting the human to fall, expecting blood, expecting a broken body sprawled on the tribunal floor. They expected humiliation. To them, this was already victory. But the Marine did not fall. His boots remained planted. His head turned with the force of the blow, but his posture remained iron. Slowly, deliberately, he turned back, eyes locking on the alien. His jaw tightened, but his expression was not rage. It was something colder. Measured. The laughter faltered. The crowd leaned forward, confused, uncertain. The predator had struck, yet the prey had not cowered. No groan of pain, no collapse, no weakness revealed. Only silence, heavy and suffocating, fell in the gap between the Marine's steady stance and the alien's sneering face. The alien warrior puffed out his chest, as if demanding acknowledgement. He had delivered the insult. But the Marine's calm stare spoke louder than any words. His restraint unsettled even those who moments ago had been laughing. A human, struck in open court, mocked in front of the galaxy, still stood unbroken. In that instant, the weight of centuries of human struggle condensed into one gaze. This was not merely one man in uniform. This was the memory of countless battles, the stubborn refusal to kneel, the unyielding tradition of warriors who had survived against impossible odds. That slap, meant to humiliate, had only carved a silence sharper than any blade. The tribunal, filled with noise a heartbeat ago, held its breath. 3 seconds stretched before them like an eternity. The chamber seemed frozen after the strike, every gaze fixed on the human who refused to bow. The alien still bore a grin, sharp teeth glinting under the lights, convinced the blow had landed as intended. Yet the man's composure unsettled him, and the silence pressing down on the arena felt heavier than the laughter that had filled it seconds earlier. Then came the moment when stillness turned to movement, and restraint gave way to action. The Marine shifted his weight by a fraction, a subtle adjustment so refined it almost escaped notice. His eyes, unwavering, narrowed with the kind of focus reserved for battlefield decisions where life and death balanced on heartbeats. In that first second after the slap, calculations fired across his mind with the precision of instinct sharpened by years of training. Distance, stance, breathing rhythm, all absorbed and processed. His target was clear, the arrogance standing before him. By the second heartbeat, muscle memory engaged. His hand shot upward, not in rage but in absolute efficiency, closing around the alien's throat with terrifying certainty. Fingers dug into scaled flesh, pressing with an intensity the creature had never associated with a species lacking claws or natural weaponry. The crowd gasped, voices caught between disbelief and shock. The alien's grin collapsed into wide-eyed confusion as he realized the human's grip was not yielding, not tentative, but absolute. The third heartbeat arrived, and with it, violence honed to perfection. The Marine pivoted, driving his weight with brutal economy, slamming the alien downward with a motion too fast to track. The ground thundered beneath the impact, and in the same fluid sequence, a strike followed. His fist, calloused and hardened by countless drills, hammered into the side of the alien's skull with force focused like a chisel. Bone that had endured battles against beasts and rivals for centuries yielded beneath human strength. The crack reverberated through the chamber, sickening and final. The audience, a chorus of species accustomed to blood sport, had expected a show of dominance from the alien. What they received instead was a demonstration of human lethality, raw and unadorned. The creature bred for combat twitched once, then stilled, its massive form broken on the floor. 3 seconds, no more, had rewritten the balance of perception. The Marine stood over the fallen body, his breath steady, expression unchanged. He had not snarled or bellowed. He had not sought spectacle. Every motion had been calculated, disciplined, stripped of unnecessary flourish. Those watching realized with creeping dread that this was not the act of a savage but of a professional, one who had held back until provoked, and who ended conflict with speed and certainty once the line was crossed. Whispers broke the silence, carrying across the tiers in languages varied yet united by disbelief. Impossible! How? That should not be. The idea that a human, fragile in appearance, could shatter the skull of a war-breed without weapons struck deeper than the sound of cracking bone. It violated everything they believed about hierarchy, strength, and superiority. The Marine looked down once, then released his grip, letting the alien's lifeless body slump fully against the tribunal floor. He neither celebrated nor mourned. His composure remained absolute, as though ending a fight in 3 seconds was no more extraordinary than finishing a drill. That detachment, that chilling calm, radiated more menace than rage ever could. Around the chamber, guards of various species tightened their grips on weapons, yet none advanced. The demonstration had been too swift, too decisive, too shocking. Fear stilled them, the unspoken recognition that if one human could do this without assistance, what then could an army achieve? The question lingered, unspoken but heavy, gnawing at every spectator. The Marine finally straightened his posture, resuming the stance he had held before the slap. No words left his mouth, no gesture sought validation. His silence spoke for him. The laughter that had roared moments ago had been strangled into silence, and silence was now his weapon. 3 seconds had been enough. Enough to dismantle arrogance. Enough to seed fear. Enough to turn a mocking spectacle into a legend whispered across stars. The Marine had not come to entertain. He had come to represent, and in those 3 seconds he had shown the galaxy what humanity truly was, patient until forced, and decisive when provoked. The echo of the skull's collapse still lingered in the chamber, a sound that none present could erase. The stillness afterward was heavier than chains. Eyes that moments ago brimmed with scorn now struggled to comprehend what they had seen. The body of a creature engineered for dominance lay crumpled, while the supposed weakling stood untouched, steady as a monument carved from stone. That single instant of reversal sent tremors far beyond the hall. Whispers began in broken fragments. Some claimed trickery, some swore hidden weapons had been used, but none could deny the evidence of their own senses. The Marine's hands were bare, his posture composed, his breathing calm. Every species present had been raised on the certainty of hierarchy, a structure that placed humanity low, a curiosity tolerated rather than respected. Yet that structure cracked in those 3 seconds, and every watching envoy understood it. One delegate, reptilian and long accustomed to siding with victors, leaned toward his peers and hissed a warning. If this was the strength of one, then humanity as a whole was not to be dismissed. Another, insectoid and analytical, began murmuring to his aid, calculating probabilities, projecting what such individuals could achieve and organize formations. Their voices, though hushed, carried the same tone, fear-wrapped in calculation. The guards lining the chambers shifted uneasily. Their orders had been clear: maintain order, ensure demonstrations did not escalate. Yet escalation had come and gone in the space of 3 heartbeats, too fast for intervention. Their weapons felt suddenly inadequate, as if pointed spears against an oncoming storm. None moved to seize the Marine. None wished to be the first to test his restraint further. Beyond the immediate hall, transmissions carried the event outward. Observers in remote galleries received the same sight: a fallen warbreed, a human standing unmoved. Messages raced through communication networks, each culture interpreting the sight through its own fears. Some compared the human to predators from their own past, small but relentless. Others whispered of legends foretelling the arrival of a race that would not bend. Among the council representatives, arguments erupted. Some demanded censure, claiming the human had broken decorum by killing his opponent. Others shouted back that the fault lay with the alien aggressor who had struck first. For the first time, the tribunal's proud unity fractured openly in debate over a species they had mocked only hours earlier. The Marine himself remained silent, a fixed point amid the chaos. He did not boast, did not plead, did not explain. His stillness forced others to fill the void with their own conclusions. Was this man an anomaly, or was he a glimpse into the truth of humanity? That uncertainty unsettled them more than any act of violence could. An elder of a winged species spoke with trembling wings, recalling history written in blood. He reminded the chamber that his kind once underestimated a smaller foe, dismissing them as weak until their armies burned cities and toppled empires. His warning carried weight: dismissing humanity now would be the same mistake repeated. The whispers spread like wildfire. Stories began forming already, each retelling painting the act larger than life. Some said the Marine had crushed the alien's skull with a single finger. Others swore he had snapped its neck before the body hit the ground. Exaggeration mattered little. What mattered was the shift in perception. Humanity had gone from overlooked to feared in a single encounter. The alien's kin sat in stunned silence, unable to process how their champion had been undone by a being they saw as frail. Pride battled with dread in their faces. To avenge the fallen meant risking further humiliation. To remain silent meant accepting their vulnerability. Both choices reeked of danger. The tribunal chamber, a place once designed to showcase order, now became a crucible of doubt. Every glance, every hushed word, every flicker of fear confirmed it. Humanity was no longer a background species. They had stepped forward in a way that could not be undone. And the Marine, standing with blood drying on his knuckles, offered no explanation. He didn't need to. The evidence lay broken on the floor, and the message was clear without words. 3 seconds had forced the galaxy to reconsider everything it thought it knew about strength. The uproar within the chamber spiraled until no voice could be clearly heard. Accusations and counter-accusations clashed in the air, yet the Marine remained a silent anchor, unmoved by the chaos he had ignited. His stillness compelled attention, and gradually the din quieted, as if the very weight of his silence demanded it. All eyes returned to him, waiting to see if this human would at last explain himself. When he finally spoke, his voice carried without strain, calm and precise, as though every syllable had been weighed before release. There was no bravado, no raised tone, only clarity. He acknowledged neither the laughter that had come before nor the fear that lingered now. His words struck with the same force as his actions, measured, direct, impossible to dismiss. "You saw strength in the strike of your soldier," he said, each word deliberate. "What you did not see was restraint in my response." The statement rippled through the audience, unsettling in its implication. The death they had witnessed, swift and final, was framed not as an act of full commitment but as a controlled answer. If that had been restraint, then the question of what full intent might look like hung in every mind like a shadow. He continued, his tone unwavering. "We are not here to beg for place or prove worth through theatrics. Humanity has endured challenges beyond this hall's imagination, survived trials that wiped out species far stronger in form. What you mock as weakness has carried us through wars, disasters, and extinction's edge. We did not come to kneel. We came to stand." The chamber trembled with shifting unease. Delegates who had clamored for condemnation now hesitated. Some attempted to mask fear with outrage, demanding he be censured for violating order. Yet their words rang hollow against the image of the corpse still lying on the floor, new proof that mockery carried consequences. The Marine raised his chin slightly, eyes sweeping the tiers of species staring down at him. "Understand this," he said, voice steady as stone. "We do not seek conquest, but we do not bow. Respect is earned, not gifted. We will not strike first. But if struck, we will finish what others begin." The clarity of his declaration left no room for distortion. He had not threatened, yet the warning embedded within was undeniable. The calm delivery cut deeper than rage could, because it was spoken as certainty, not boast. The room understood. This was not the voice of one reckless soldier. This was the creed of a people. For many present, the realization spread like a chill. If a single representative embodied such conviction, what of the countless others waiting on the world they came from? What armies, what fleets, what hidden reserves of discipline and fury might exist beyond their limited knowledge? None could answer, and in that uncertainty grew the seeds of caution. The Marine's gaze lingered on the body of the fallen warrior only briefly before lifting again. "You believed the strike you saw was dominance," he said quietly. "It was not. It was arrogance. Arrogance blinds. Arrogance kills. Remember this before you raise your hand against us again." No further words followed. He did not embellish his message with threats or demands. He let silence resume its hold, confident that the meaning had been carved deep enough. Delegates shifted uncomfortably, each forced to confront the truth that respect had been claimed not through speeches or alliances, but through undeniable demonstration. Attempts to restore the formality of the tribunal faltered. The Marine had spoken once, and it was enough. His refusal to explain further, to soften his stance, or to request forgiveness created an aura that no rebuttal could penetrate. He had laid down a principle as firm as the strike that had shattered bone. As the meeting strained to resume, it was no longer the alien corpse that dominated thought, but the words that followed it. The image of a human soldier standing firm, speaking with the weight of history behind him, branded itself into collective memory. A lesson had been delivered, and it resonated with a clarity that left no escape. Word of the 3 seconds spread faster than any decree or fleet ever could. The image of a towering warbreed brought low by a single human hand crossed networks, passed from envoy to ruler, from soldier to civilian. Each retelling grew sharper, each pause more dramatic, until the legend carried more power than the act itself. It was no longer simply a blow in a tribunal. It was a warning carved into the memory of a galaxy. Across distant systems, commanders replayed the footage, watching again and again the sequence of silence, strike, and collapse. They studied the Marine's posture, his composure, the absence of fear, the lack of hesitation. What unsettled them most was not the violence but the efficiency. There had been no wasted movement, no spectacle for glory. It was the response of a professional conditioned to end conflict without delay. That level of discipline suggested an army of countless others trained in the same fashion. No empire could ignore it. Diplomatic channels shifted overnight. Species once dismissive sought new terms, eager to align themselves with humans rather than risk standing against them. Others, whose pride resisted submission, whispered of revenge yet acted cautiously, unwilling to provoke a race that had shown such lethal precision. Even whispers carried the weight of fear. No one wished to be remembered as the next example. Within halls of power, strategists debated humanity's true strength. If one soldier could end a champion in seconds, what could a battalion accomplish? What devastation might fleets commanded by such warriors unleash? None possessed the answer, and the absence of certainty bred hesitation. It was safer to assume the worst than to test the unknown. The event also seeded myths among ordinary citizens of alien worlds. Parents warned their young not to provoke the humans, spinning the tale into a fable of caution. Street merchants retold it as proof that strength did not always come from appearance. To the disenfranchised, the story carried hope. If frail-looking beings from a forgotten world could defy the mighty, then no empire was truly invincible. On Earth, the Marine returned without ceremony. There were no parades, no speeches broadcast in his honor. For him, it had not been performance but duty, another line in a long history of standing when called. His silence matched his actions, and the galaxy failed to comprehend a people who did not glorify individual feats yet produced individuals capable of such feats endlessly. That humility, mistaken by some for indifference, made the act more haunting. If this was considered ordinary, what then counted as extraordinary? Historians across species tried to place the moment in context. Some compared it to the first use of fire, when power shifted forever. Others likened it to ancient battles where a single victory reshaped empires. The consensus formed quietly: the galaxy had crossed a threshold. Humanity would no longer be measured against scales of weakness or strength set by others. They had written their own measure in 3 seconds. The fallen warriors can never recover their pride. Every attempt to restore their reputation faltered, overshadowed by the memory of that tribunal floor. Their name, once associated with dominance, became tied to humiliation. Future generations of their species grew under the weight of that shame, teaching their young caution where once they taught conquest. Humanity had not simply broken a skull, they had scarred a legacy. For the tribunal itself, the event became a turning point. Protocols were rewritten, ensuring demonstrations with humans were avoided whenever possible. None admitted openly that fear drove the change, yet everyone understood. It was easier to alter tradition than risk provoking another lesson. And through it all, the Marine's words echoed longer than the sound of bone breaking. The reminder that what had been seen was restraint, not wrath, lingered in every negotiation, every alliance, every potential conflict. The galaxy had been shown not the limits of human power but only a glimpse, and that glimpse was enough to command respect. Generations later, the tale still endured. It was told in academies as a study of discipline, in military circles as proof of what focus could achieve, in common households as a warning never to mistake calm for weakness. The exact details blurred, exaggerated by time, but the heart of it remained untouched. 3 seconds had changed everything. For the Marine, it was one duty among many, quickly set aside for the next. But for the galaxy, it was an indelible mark, a reminder that humanity was not to be measured by appearances or dismissed as fragile. They had learned that day a truth that would shape centuries. Patience was their shield, decisiveness their blade, and restraint their most terrifying weapon.